Boom, it happened, and then I opened my hand, and then blood starts pouring everywhere. And I saw Jamie go,
Yeah.
like this, and Quentin like had his hand, and he goes.
From stunts that went wrong and right to blurbs that were just too good to leave out, allow me to show you 9 movie bloopers that weren't cut out. 9. Birds of Prey stunt. The Birds of Prey movie that recently got released by Warner Brothers has been making a lot of waves and also causing some unintentional controversy. A lot of people have been labeling the movie a flop, even though it's made up its budget already and likely won't lose money at all. Some people are even saying that media reporters are trying to weigh down the movie with unjust statements that they wouldn't give to a film that had a mostly male cast. Regardless of which side of the argument you fall on, Birds of Prey was praised by most of its incredible action sequences, done by the titular Birds of Prey. One of the standout moments was when the character known as Huntress was killing a goon while she was quite literally going down a slide. The shot was intense, and it ended with the screen going black. A regular thing, right? Not so much. For as director Kathy Yan noted, that going to black moment was actually the stunt guy hitting the cameraman. That cameraman was our DP, Maddie Libatique, who got destroyed by Mew and the 200-pound stuntman. That shot going to black was the collision. So let that sink in for a moment. The shot apparently came out so epic, despite the blooper that they kept it in, and no one really noticed it was a blooper until the director pointed it out. That's pretty cool. 8. Django Unchained DiCaprio injury. There's a big reason why Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the most important and relevant actors in the world today. The biggest reason is that he is just so darn good at being an actor. What's more, not unlike a certain character he played once upon a time in Hollywood, he knows how to adapt himself into the various roles that he plays. As if he wasn't enough, he really get deep into these roles. So much so that he won't even let an injury stop him from doing a scene, which can be viewed in full in Django Unchained.
This was one of the most narcissistic, self-indulgent, racist, most despicable characters I've ever read in my entire life.
During the film, Leonardo DiCaprio played Calvin Candy, and in a key part of the film, he went on a tirade that ended up with glass being shattered, bones being broke, blood being spilled, and him doing a speech as a result.
You see, under the laws of Chickasaw County, Broomhill here is my property. And I can choose to do with my property whatever I so desire.
But one of those things wasn't supposed to happen. You see, DiCaprio honestly did injure himself on accident during that scene, but he kept such a cool head that it didn't even seem real, even though it was. What's more, when he was done with his speech, he started to pull the glass out of his hand. That had to hurt him. And all the while, Quentin Tarantino didn't say cut once. 7. Mission Impossible 2 fight scene.
When you're making one of these movies, everyone, you sit down and you go, okay, what do I think is cool? I love motorcycles.
Tom Cruise has proved time and time again that age does not have to stop you from being one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, nor does it have to stop you from being a major action hero, which has been proven time and time again via the Mission Impossible franchise. Tom Cruise does have stuntmen, that's true, but more times than not, he does his own stunts. And Mission Impossible 2 was one that has several stunts that nearly went wrong, and one that went so wrong, it looked better than if he had done it right. Confused? Well, Tom Cruise and the stunts team trained to make their moves as realistic as possible, including swinging a knife that stopped just millimeters from his eyeball. But when his fellow stuntman told Tom Cruise not to pull back on the final kick of the sequence, he didn't, planting his foot squarely on his partner's jaw. Director John Woo used the entire shot, including the star's clearly shocked reaction to his mistake. Didn't see that one coming, did you? Well, neither did he. 6. Zoolander Line. Zoolander might be one of Ben Stiller's most famous films, despite the many years it's been since the original. And can we please not talk about the second movie that should never been made? His portrayal as the idiot male model stunned the world so much that it became a major hit. And to this day, many people quote the movie for its various lines and hilarious moments, even though one wasn't planned and was instead a masterful ad-lib from 2 actors. When David Duchovny's character explains why male models make the perfect brainwashed assassins, Derek doesn't quite keep up, but the moment wasn't planned. Stiller simply forgot his next line, and instead of ruining the take, repeated the question. Duchovny didn't miss a beat, giving as deadpan a response as he could, delivering one of Zoolander's most memorable jokes as a result.
But why male models?
You serious? I just told you that a moment ago.
Right.
This is why acting isn't always meant to be rigid, because if they had done the joke the proper way, the take wouldn't have been as good as the ad-lib, more than likely. And say what you will about Ben Stiller, he knows how to keep the comedy going. 5. Knocked Up's roller coaster.
Let's go celebrate!
There are a lot of subtle things in movies that at times are filmed in certain ways to not let actors or actresses do things they're uncomfortable with. Love-making scenes, stunts, moments of terror at times, etc. But the beauty is that you don't know what's real or what's fake unless you're really looking. In the surprise hit Knocked Up, the main male cast members started the movie by just having fun. That was in the script. And one of the things that they did to show that they were having fun was that they rode a roller coaster, which would have been fun for all, if one of them didn't have an extreme fear of coasters. Yep, that's right. One of the cast had a major fear of roller coasters. In this case, it was Jay Baruchel. And what's more, he agreed to do certain other scenes he wasn't fully comfortable with. Just so he could get away from doing the roller coaster scene, which they couldn't fake. But he was pushed into it. And when you watch the scene, you'll see his genuine and very real terror being quite visible. And you thought acting was easy. 4. The Fly in Raiders of the Lost Ark. The first Indiana Jones movie set up a franchise in the most beautiful of fashion, and many agree that Raiders of the Lost Ark still holds up to this day. But one of the moments that is too good to be true technically was, and yet was still a blooper. When Indiana Jones attempts to ambush a group of Nazis with his leading lady held prisoner in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the movie's villain Belloc takes part in a surprise cameo. A fly suddenly appearing on an actor's face can usually ruin a take, but the bug disappeared into his mouth, and then failing to come out of it was something no one saw coming. So what happened? The fly was real, as we noted, and it did indeed go into his mouth, but actor Paul Freeman admitted that the fly did get out. But the editing team thought it would be a funnier moment to make the audience think Belloc was so evil that he ate the fly, so they left it in. And the moment was very much funnier because of that. 3. I'm Walking Here. Midnight Cowboy is a movie that truly does stand the test of time, mainly because of the incredible performances by Jon Voight and Dustin Hoffman. But what many don't realize is that the legendary line, "I'm walking here," was an ad-lib that wasn't meant to happen. The film crew were secretly filming the shots of Hoffman and Voight together in the scene to add to the realism. And because it wasn't a stage with cordoned off areas, a taxi really did almost hit them. Hoffman played it perfectly in character and openly chastised the taxi driver, who happily returned the favor.
Hey! I'm walking here! I'm walking here! Up yours, you son of a bitch! You don't talk me that way! Get out of here!
That line transcended films in many ways, and is still stated to this day. So this ad-lib became a pop culture sensation.
What was in my head was, we're making a movie here! And just as I want to say that, I realized, oh, you can't do that. So the brain changes it to, I'm walking here!
2. Watch your head, Gandalf. In The Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring, we spend much of the opening bits in the Shire following the little people known as hobbits, who aren't much bigger than human children. The sets were built with this in mind, so when fully tall actor Ian McKellen went into Bilbo Baggins' house to talk with him, he was supposed to go and fumble with the chandelier by knocking into it, which he did. But then he goes and steps right into the doorframe, which was not planned. But McKellen's natural reaction was too good to leave out, so thus, director Peter Jackson left it in. It was a funny moment, so why not?
Just tea, thank you.
1. The Missing Blade. The sequel trilogy of Star Wars is no doubt going to be one of the most fan-debated and controversial sets of films in history. Each film made $1 billion plus, which means they were financially hits through and through. And yet, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker each had their own major controversies that made it so that fans couldn't agree on whether they were good or not. The Force Awakens, for example, was a rehash of A New Hope in numerous ways. The Last Jedi was trying to change the formula, and it did too much without explaining why things were changing. And The Rise of Skywalker had so many tropes and plot holes that fans truly wondered if it was more than okay. But one of the biggest bloopers of all came from the climactic fight between Rey and Kylo Ren, who were temporarily allies, and the Imperial Guard. The fight was epic, but during one scene, one of the Guard is shown to have 2 weapons and is overwhelming Rey. And yet, in a blink and you'll miss it moment, which has been slowed down numerous times to prove it happened. The guard suddenly only has one weapon. What happened? It's not clear, but Rian Johnson clearly didn't want to reshoot the scene, so they did some editing magic to make it seem like the guard only had one weapon, when we all know better. The force was not strong with this one. So what do you think? What do you think of these movie bloopers that got left in the films? Does this change how you view the movies themselves? Can you believe the fame some of these bloopers got by those who caught them while watching? Do you know another blooper that shouldn't been on this list? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the channel.